Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This week's show where I talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 4 premiere of The Bear. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we open with Carmi and Mike. Not fully clear where this takes place in the timeline. I'd assume this would be before the Christmas episode from season 2. I'd assume so, like the timeline wise, because by that time, Carmi had already sketched up the bear for the restaurant, and this, I guess, is early talks for the restaurant. But it's interesting that Michael and Carmi had that conversation about the thing. I mean, I'm not even trying to make like a Marvel joke, Evan Mossbacher. And if he was in the scene, yes, that'd be even more of a double layered element to it. But it's just the conversation about the thing reminds me of, and I think it's supposed to play off that is the thing that's like that. It's the thing. Like Sid and her dad had this conversation back in season 2 where he told her not everything has to be the thing, but she's like, why shouldn't we try to be the best at thing that we care about? And then at the end of the season finale, he tells her, Sid, baby, it's the thing. So that's why I was wondering, like, oh, like it's the it was like was it a repair shop? It's something car. It was a rental car place or whatever. And he was like, oh, the thing. And, he's like, oh, can I ask you a question? She's like, oh, God, here we go, Carmen. He's like, no, I'm just asking you a question. He's like, fine, I won't ask. He's like, no, go ahead, Carmen, ask what it is. He's like, did you love it? And he was like, what? Like, the rental car plate's like, did you love it? He's like, I don't know. No, it didn't mean anything to me. We know Michael because of the flashback episode with him and Tina. We know that he believes, like, that dream, like everyone has that dream they're chasing. He's like, I knew growing up from a very young age that was never going to be my life, So I'm wondering, did that car rental place actually not mean anything to him, or was he just saying that just to make it a little easier? It's really hard to tell in that moment because I feel like it could easily go either way with that. And so they're having this conversation about, I forgot to lead into it, but it ends up being this interesting conversation about, it's about restaurants, about how people tend to be happy at restaurants because you kind of get to go in there, eat some good food, a lot of good memories and stuff are tied around it, which back to that episode last season with Tina and Mike, that episode also had that conversation because Mike had that perspective where he's like, yeah, you ever notice like a lot of good things in life tend to happen around food? So it makes you think like, Mike applied a lot of what Carmi said in that moment and kind of took a lot of it and ran with it. And for Carmi, he even talks about their dad, and it's like, what about dad? It's like, yeah, there was that specific spot he went to all the time. I can't remember the name. He's like, I've never saw dad happy, but like that place like really made dad happy, right? And then he's like, you think about dad a lot? And it's like, I don't know, kinda. And it's like, Mike's like, what do you remember about him? He's like, I don't. No, I think Carmi asked Mike, like, what does he remember? What was he like? Because Carmi doesn't really remember much, and it's like, well, when's the last time you talked to him? And it's like, he's like, I don't know. He's like, that feeling right there, that's dad. It's like he was an asshole, but even even Carmi's like, yeah, everyone loves restaurants, even assholes, because it's like the whole conversation about like, no, like the consistency and like the upkeep, the hardship of a restaurant. Mike was trying to get that across to Carmi. Carmi's like, no, I know it's hard and I know there's a chance it might not work out, but he's like, I think I can do this. This is where that really sparked. He's like, I get it. You went to Napa and yada, 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 and you think you can run a restaurant and stuff. But he's like, no, I think we could do this. We can open a spot. It's that idealism of like, you strayed so far, sadly, just life being what it is, the blows that life has kind of delivered to you, the things, the past, the present, and the future all kind of colliding in you and making you the person you are right now. What I mean by like your trauma in the past, the stuff you haven't really properly dealt with in the present, and then like the worries about the future are all colliding on Carmi, making him the person that he is, very like anal retentive and kind of a psychopathic asshole on occasion, right? A lot of occasions. But here he is so like doe-eyed, believing like, I'm going to do this, especially because it's like, it's something I'm going to do with my brother. Like, once again, he said to himself like his brother was his best friend. Or he believed his brother was his best friend, but then he realized, oh, Mikey's everyone else's best friend too. And especially that the relationship is strained. Even at this point, it's strained, but it's not as strained as it will eventually become. So there was still that glimmer of hope before, reality kind of smacked him in the face, and he's being dragged down and bogged down by just like his own mental health and him just not dealing with stuff the right way, not knowing how to properly deal with things the right way. And so he's so optimistic and being like, oh, this restaurant isn't going to be like that. It's interesting because Sid had the same thing of like, oh, you and me, Carm, we grew up in systems where we had people breathing down our necks, yelling at us. Like, we don't have to make this place like that. It can be a cool, chill place. So it's kind of that conversation and further in the past. And it's like, what are we going to call the place? And Carm's the one that says like, oh, the bear. No, not the bear. Sorry, he's the one that's like Mikey's, and then Mikey's like, no, that's fine. But he's like, I think I got a better one. So you're like, he's the one that came up with the bear. Obviously, like it seemed you would think it was Carmy, but it's like no, it was Mike. Because obviously by this point he already is working at the beef because the beef was originally their dad's place. So it wouldn't be about that. I mean, at least I don't think, not unless I'm misconstrued. But like by this point, it's like obviously he's running the beef because he basically inherited it from his dad along with all his debts and stuff. But either way, I thought it was interesting. Obviously, the thing he wakes up to is at first I was like, I'm not real familiar with Bill Murray's filmography, but looking at it and the whole conversation about being stuck, in the same day and feeling like you're stuck there, I was like, oh. Groundhog's Day. Obviously, I'm a fan of time loop stories. I don't think I've ever watched Groundhog's Day all the way through. Either way, obviously, Bill Murray is tied to the bear through Richie and Mike and stuff like that. But either way, I'm going on my diatribe. But obviously, a big thing is this is after the review. We don't know how long it's been since the season 3 finale, since the review dropped. So it probably is like either the next day or maybe like at least at most a few days later, at most. And so Carmy ends up like throwing away the newspaper, but then he immediately pulls it out because he's like, screw it. Because I think for him it's like me throwing it away isn't going to make it less real. It's going to make it go away. So might as well keep it. But basically it's like saying that basically the restaurant had basically kind of like an identity dissonance. The beef side of the restaurant is consistently good. It's the only thing that got an extremely positive review, whereas everything else was very mixed. There was good, but there was also bad because it's like the restaurant didn't know what its identity was. It's like trying to run a chaos menu is fine and everything like that, but then it's like, and Sid puts it very elegantly. She's like, the reviewer literally came here to 3 different restaurants, and that was the problem. It's like the people there that work here don't really know, so that's the whole thing. What I thought was really interesting is when Carmy is on the train, which we never see Carmy on the train. We see Sid on the train. I don't think we've ever seen Carmy on the train in this show before, but I could be misremembering. But knowing that he texts Mike from time to time is like very sad. It's him being like, yo, I found the tomato cans. The next one was, you were right about Claire Bear. And then like the most recent one was like Kerrigan's. It's the name of the shithole place that their dad loved. The few things that their dad loved that Carm knows about. It's like that's one of the few places he was happy. He couldn't remember the name. And all these years later, he's like, I finally remember the place's name. It's Kerrigan's. It's funny the things you remember out of nowhere, And I guess because he was dreaming about that, like that sequence we saw was him dreaming about it. And I think it just finally like snapped into it, It's interesting how they do that because even episode 6 of season 2, Fishes, the family, like Christmas thing, that was technically a dream. Or more so, it was like, no, I don't think it was a dream. It was him telling Claire that story. Like you find out like 2 episodes later in episode 8, him telling the others like that's kind of how So I think that's so fascinating, utilizing them in universe like that to be like, oh, this is Carmy telling a story. This is Carmy having this particular dream to kind of bring that as an excuse to kind of do that the past thing or whatever. You don't need it, but it's just kind of interesting as a plot device sometimes, giving in-universe, like in-story reasons why we get to see that. It's because it is relevant to the conversations or dreams that a character's having. It's also one of the few times you get to see Carmy smile, too, because he's just like, after he texts that to Mike, he kind of smiles, because I think there's a little bit of weight lifted off of him, but he always has these moments where it's like, there's like a catharsis, and everything's kind of okay, and then like shit hits the fan immediately. So obviously everyone's reactions to the review, Ibrahim, it's like, yo, we're gonna work more on the advancing and making things even better for the beef side of things, and it's like they plan on doing delivery service, and it's like, oh, neat, you know. And Tina's takeaway is like, yo, I just got to get better. She's like, I got to take like the good and the bad from the review. I just got to put my head down, be faster. It's interesting because they're bringing up, oh, systems, baby. It's like we're right back to episode 1, so this is kind of like it's supposed to be almost like, it's interesting because like there was like the Bear 2.0 and it's still in its infancy and stuff like that. Because you kind of forget, like, even though like obviously it's been years between season 1 and now in universe, it's only been like a couple months, because the beginning of the series and then like the months, not month, well, weeks, but it was months, but weeks that they took building up the bear, then the bear being open for like, I don't know how long, maybe weeks, months. So I don't think it's even been a full year yet, maybe, but maybe I'm mistaken, because the whole point was like they were supposed to have the restaurant open, like initially they had like, wasn't it like they need to have it open like 6 months or something like that. I'm misremembering the numbers from season 2, which funny enough, numbers come up again this episode, but I'll get to that soon enough. But my point was, I think it's so interesting bringing back the whole, oh yeah, like we're Tina having that conversation about systems, because the whole opening of episode 1 was about Mikey's system and how it doesn't work, and you know, it's crazy and doesn't make any sense. Obviously you have Nat with the whole, you know, Pete being like, all right, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute with the newspaper and I'm gonna throw it. She's like, no, throw it away. He's like, good, gladly, and tosses it. But once again, it doesn't matter because everyone's got those words to that thing printed in their minds. They've got it there. They'll probably try to be like, oh, we don't have it memorized. They definitely have it memorized. They combed over every single word of that review because it's do or die. It's between this restaurant living and this restaurant dying, which that's a whole thing, but we'll get to that soon enough. Richie's got his own issues because apparently, like, I guess it was like maybe a Build-A-Bear situation, whatever the case may be. His daughter wanted a bear and he kind of handled it like he's handling the restaurant, but it's like, dude, she's 7, and it's like, I don't know if you and Frank have that parenting style of giving whatever I want. I'm trying to give her structure like the restaurant, and he was upset. He's just like, all right, Tiff, I'm gonna call you back later, and just hangs up. And he's just like, you know, the pressure's kind of choking him a little bit. He's trying to be better, he's trying to do better, but he feels like he's like, I'm sure in that moment he feels like he's falling back into asshole Richie territory, even though he's done a lot to grow and progress. The reviews got him stressed out too. There's also the situation with Carm and Sid. He does the sign for sorry, and it's like, all right, you gotta be specific. He's just like, he's like, I don't think I was good enough. I could have been better. She's like, that's your takeaway from everything? And he's like, well, what should a takeaway be? That she's just like, you could be good, you could be great, but you don't have to live as dysfunction. He's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I think you like the chaos. I think you like the mess. He's like, wow, that she's like, okay, you're shutting down. He's like, no, I'm not, but it's just, he's like, I don't like dysfunction. From the outside perspective, you could see why someone would think that, because it just feels like sometimes things don't have to be as hard as they are, but for Carmen, they are. And it's just, once again, it is trauma. It is just so much stuff that he just doesn't know how to properly function sometimes as a person, and he lets it get to him. And so, for him, it's this, the fact is that is his takeaway. Not like, he was like, basically like, oh, but the food was good, but they didn't like the vibes of the place and stuff like that, so... Because Sid's still discovering it herself, figuring out, like, do I still want to be here? She still has yet to have the conversation with Carm about, like, yo, I might want to leave, because Adam's hitting her up about, yo, hit me up about the spot. And it's just like, Jesus. It's like it's so interesting because Carm is the way he is, but Sid's very indecisive in this moment. She needs to make a choice, and I think she's so scared to make one because she doesn't want to feel like she's abandoning this place, because there is something about, as dysfunctional as it is, this is a place that she wanted to make work, and she believes it can work, but it's just like she just doesn't know how to process and deal with it all. And she also doesn't want to leave behind the people she cares about, because she's like, if I up and abandon them now, I'm an asshole for that. I think a lot of that's ruminating through her head as well. We also have Carm and Richie still not being on talking terms. Um, they just kind of walk past each other, like when I don't know if that was later or if that was before the whole Jimmy and computer situation, because they come in and it's like, hey, and then Nat's on speaker and the computer's plugging in a clock because it's like, yeah, props seem to work, and so it's like, was it 1,400 hours? What was the number? It might have been like 1,400 hours, I believe. And I love that it's just like, how long do you think that is? And Carmi's like 3 months. They're like 2 months, and he's like, nephew, I don't know what's worse, your inability, your math, or your inability to kind of return calls or pick up calls. And like, Jesus. And I love that multiple times throughout that he gets the numbers wrong, and they're like, that gives us, and he's like 6 months, and he's just like, Jesus, Carm, just like stop. I love that everyone had to pause to let him, like, all right, let's see if you got it. Like, they're treating him like an elementary school kid learning addition and subtraction for the first time. It's like, Jesus Christ, Carm, just stop doing number stuff. But basically, that number on the clock means how much time they've got left. They've got 2 months, and he's like, 2 months is your parachute. It's like, oh well, parachute is good. It's like, no. This isn't. If this was a healthy parachute, that's like, the only good thing coming in is the beef. And it's like all the overhead of everything else is kind of falling apart. It's like 2 months from now, this place has to go away. Like, you can't keep running because you're starting at fucked, and with the direction things are going and people can't, like, you're going to continue to get fucked, and it's just going to be a downward spiral. So you've got 2 months, and it's like, can you turn that around in 2 months? That seems impossible with just the nature of things, and computer is the numbers guy. It's just like, yeah, it's just not going to work out. Obviously, Richie and Neil show up and being a part of that conversation as well. It's like, also, we cannot spend any more money. I love Chuck coming in and be like, hey, yo, we got a robot, but it came free with the app. And they're like, oh, God, thank good. And I love Richie being like, yo, he got a robot. And Chuck's like, it was free. And it's like, it's free, so he's good. Plus they got a lot more leeway, especially if it's free, because they are, because the robot's going to be used for the delivery service. It's like, yo, they're the only ones really bringing in the money. They're the ones that got the mainly positive side of the review. So you kind of give them a lot more leeway than the main restaurant itself at the Bear. But Richie took a lot of it on himself because he's like, it's my fault, because he's like, I was out front. The fact of the matter is, I should have recognized the guy, and I wasn't on the ball. And it's like, it's not because the guy's a reviewer. He's a repeat customer, and I should have clocked that, but I didn't. So I put a lot on it on me. Obviously, the conversation about like no more hiring people, but he's like, yo, but I mean, people quit. It's like, but 1, 2, 3 and quit, and then like, wait, who? And literally both Carm and Sid, not even Sid knew who they were, being like, wait, what? Who the fuck are they? It's like, and Neil's like, well, so and so, she was very nice to me. Other person, they were whatever. David was the best. So you're like, okay, Jesus Christ. I mean, once again, they're back out, like they're front of house, they're like back, so it makes sense they wouldn't notice. But like, the fact is that was happening without them. It shows how out of the loop they were in the grand scheme of things. And both Carm and Sid, to be fair, Sid had a lot to deal with, so did Carm, but still, it's kind of like, you're not even aware of what's happening out front in that regard, that you're having this, like, you lost 3 people like that, and so. But then Carmen tried to say, like, no, it's my fault. But then it becomes like an argument between him and Richie about, yo, who's at fault here and stuff like that. I mean, you got to at least give Carm credit for like trying to take blame, try to take ownership and responsibility. It's like, yo, you're not listening. He's like, no, you're not listening to me. I'm the one at fault. It's like, okay, we're having whose fault it is Olympics at this moment. But then finally it comes down to Carmi being like, all right, we need to get that star. It's like, what? It's like, if we get that star, we can turn things around. It's like, well, can you do that in 2 months? Because that's all the time you have. And that's what they, like, that could be the deciding factor, kind of turning business around. If they could, like, change perspective on things by getting the star, that can, be kind of like a counter to the review. And that could be, like, what brings them back to life. But Richie's already made moves and hired some people, and it's like, wait, who'd you hire? Non-negotiables, and it's Jess, Renee, and Garrett from Ever. I'm like, of course. They're great people that end up kind of immediately poaching. I mean, it's not even poaching considering, like, the restaurant went away. So they're kind of part of this all now. And it's like, oh, any issues? And I love, it's like, the whole thing, they're going to run it like everywhere. It's like, we're going to communicate without communicating. It's like, well, how do we do that? It's like, well, I'm going to signal, Gary, it's like, I'm going to signal you and I'm look you directly in the eyes. And Neil's takeaway was, how do I know you're looking me directly in the eyes? And Gary's like, he will literally be staring you in the eyes. And Garrett's like, thank you, Gary. I just love that immediately being like, yeah, you're just here. You already got everyone's names down. It's like, thank you, Neil. Thank you, Gary. Saying like who'd be out front. It's going to be Richie, Neil, Gary, Renee, and Garrett are going to all be out front. The conversations about like, all right, Tina wanted to be faster and faster. She has to get everything under 3 minutes. She can't, sadly. Like we see at one point when she's making the pasta, she could get it like a little over 5 minutes. Just like, damn. Marcus can't really keep up with the pastries, so he's got Tina's side. Tina's back him up. That was a clutch move where he had a tray and it kind of knocked one of the plates down. Tina grabbed it. He's like, "Thank you, chef." She's like, "I got you." I'm like, freaking Tina continue being the MVP that she is. Once again, things are running smoothly on the beef side of things. Nothing really on the Carmi front. I mean, other than him just staring at the clock, thinking about every second count, thinking about everything. Sid stressing out, trying to seem like everything's okay when it's not. She's got a lot on her mind. But yeah, we see at the end there's a lot of red sticky notes. Green means like, okay, we're good. Red means like this dish is behind. And they start stacking up a lot of red. And then the fact of the matter is there's also like the chart decline. Because the whole point was like, okay, we're overbooked. But it's what did Jess call it? It's like champagne booking or something like that. When you overbook, but the person who does still keep the order, it's like, what would you call that? I guess it's supposed to be like the person, if you rather take that loss than like take the full loss of no one showing up. Like money that could have come in to replace the money that didn't come in is kind of a net negative, I guess is supposed to be the takeaway from that. Or at the very least, you're inspiring that customer to come back again. Be like, oh, I guess I booked and it didn't. I don't know. Like I think there's many different ways to interpret that. But the red line does not look good. And so that's where we leave things off. Hey, Carmi, well, other than a little shouting match between Carmi and Richie, because that's Carmi and Richie now. Once again, will they make it past that? Probably be a while. But for the most part, he wasn't an asshole from what we can tell. But, he's, once again, trying to do better, be better. Always does for a little bit. But like I said, shit always comes crumbling down. So I have no idea what to expect to see the direction of this season, where the storylines are going to take us this season. But I am very, very excited to see where this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.